Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast for HowToRaiseAnAwesomeKid.com. I'm Justin, and Eric is here, too. How are you doing, Eric?
I'm doing great. How about you, man?
I'm great, man. Well, you know what? I was running around like crazy before this podcast started because I had I've been using a USB mic from Rock Band.
Yeah.
You know, the video game Rock Band. That's what I've been using for all these podcasts, and it's like kind of like my magic feather. Like, it makes me feel like I'm doing it the right way. And I plugged it in for tonight's podcast, and nothing happened.
Uh-oh.
And I plugged it in, and it would go, you know, it does like that Windows, like something's connecting, something's disconnecting, something's connecting. Like, it was obviously on the fritz. Which, you know, it doesn't surprise me because, let's see, what happened to that mic? Oh, that's Mach 2 mic, because the first one, we were having a Rock Band party at my house, and some friends of friends were there, and you know how I hate friends of friends. And sure enough,
they're bad news.
Yeah, well, they were jamming out, and somebody walked away after singing and took the mic with them. Like, they basically tripped over the cord, yanked the mic, snapped the mic cable off of the Xbox, and broke it basically. And you know, they were like profusely apologetic, and I was like, you know what, it's no big deal, because between like the $15 mic and the $300 Xbox, I'm very glad this is the way it ended up. But to make up for it, they went ahead and like surprised me, and they, like, a week later, they got me a replacement microphone.
Well, that's pretty responsible.
It was until like 2 weeks later, we had another Rock Band jam out, and the same person did the exact same thing. So that microphone, it snapped, but not completely. Like, it was hanging on by threads, and that's how it's been this whole time.
Yeah.
But now it finally gave up the ghost.
Oh, that's awful.
And it died. So I was running around the house, and I ended up finding like 4 microphones. And so that's my way of telling everybody listening that, you know, it sounds terrible.
If you put them all together, you could probably build a good microphone.
I probably should. I got like splitters and stuff. I can kind of reverse split it down into like 3 microphones down into 1 jack, and then.
That can't be too hard.
Yeah, I know. That's probably what they do, like the professionals do, right?
Yeah, I mean, engineering, the people who engineer stuff are the same people who drive trains, and that's not hard.
Yeah, I mean, you just can go forward or backward, right? I mean,
exactly. And you brake over the course of 5 miles.
That's right.
That's easy.
So I'm catching my breath after running around trying to find all the stupid mics. But so that's me. You asked me how I am, and that was the 3-minute soliloquy about how I am. How about you, man? How are you?
You know, I'm pretty fantastic. I started running again.
You know, I had that on my list to talk to you about. How's that going?
It's going. I mean, I'm getting myself back into some kind of running shape, decent for me. I mean, I'm not a kid who ever ran in school. I started running a couple years ago just because I felt like it, and then I stopped for a while, and now I'm kind of getting back in. So I can do probably 2 or 3 miles without too much trouble right now.
We had a friend in the family when I was a kid, and you know, he was like sensitive to the fact that I was you know, a kid that didn't have a dad, and he you know, had a little girl, but he didn't have a boy, and I guess maybe one day he wanted a boy. So he kind of took me under his wing, and we started running. I was like 10, 9 or 10. I started running with him, and we would just like run around his neighborhood. And he was a member of something called the Hash House Harriers. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's that's like, you know, it's kind of stereotypical. They're a drinking group with a running problem. That's their whole deal. So
sounds like fun.
They run courses around, like, they make up courses, and I would help him do that. I'd go out, like, you take like a bag of flour, and you go out like in the woods, not the woods, but you take a trail or something like that. And you'd take a handful of flour and throw it on the ground. That's how you mark like the trail. Yeah. So when you find like a mark like that, then you yell on, so the people running behind you know that there's you know, that you found the trail. And then whoever comes in last place has to drink beer out of a toilet plunger. So that was an awesome thing to be exposed to when I was 10. But what I did when I was 10 was I started running a lot of 5Ks and 10Ks. And
when you were 10?
Yeah, when I was 10, 11. Well, 9 actually is the first time, because they had like a 10 and under. So I got in good on that one.
Good for you.
Yeah, I think by the time I was 10 or 11, I was running 10Ks. And then that just kind of all fell off.
Well, I think, you know, something that I think it's easy to forget is when you're a kid, running is easy. I mean, even if you're one of those fat high school kids who hates running, compared to how it's going to feel in 10 years, running is easy.
Yeah, that's true.
My son went on a mile run with me. He's 5 years old, and he kept blasting by me. Then he'd sit and wait for me to pass, wait for me to get a little distance on him, and blast by me again. Yeah. He was mocking me with his youth. And I know he didn't feel that run when he went to bed that night.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I never ever, recovery was easy. When I was a kid running, Oh man, you get up the next day feeling great. But that was also maybe because I was a regular runner. I know a few years ago, before I met my wife, I started running regularly in Atlanta and Piedmont Park.
Yeah,
There's like kind of a big oval track. I don't know. Have you seen What to Expect When You're Expecting?
I haven't.
Okay, well that movie was shot in Atlanta, and like those guys all run around that same track the whole time.
Yeah,
So I run around that, and that was great. And I would do that every day after work. I would just come home from work, take my suit off, put on my running clothes, go out and run, get back home, shower, put on my going out clothes, and then go out and hit the bars.
yeah,
That was basically how it worked. So basically, kind
cool.
of undoing everything. But I always felt great the next day. I never felt terrible. But yeah, what I'm leading up to is that my wife and I started doing like a couch to 5K program 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's you start off kind of mixing running and walking, and I feel miserable. I hate it.
The
Both like
first
sore all the time.
the first 2 weeks of that are misery.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it does feel a little better than it did the first week, but it's you get those things. For me, it's my shins. Like I feel anytime you run downhill or something like that. Like there's a lot of
Hmm.
hills here, so
Yeah.
anytime you run downhill, you just kind of get that feeling in your shins. But I actually you and I had talked about the potential of running a half marathon
Yeah.
next year, so about 6 months from now.
Well, it's yeah, just about that. I looked it up because a decent half marathon training plan lasts about 12 weeks. Which for this one, which is right smack in the middle of March, we'd probably have to start doing proper training for it the last week of December.
Yeah, I would start now, man. For me,
Yeah,
I would
that's
start
what
now.
I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, since it's about 11 weeks away, I'm going to try to double. Like the week one of the training plan, I'm going to do that for 2 weeks, and then week two, I'm going to do
Yeah.
that for 2 weeks.
It's exactly what we're doing, yeah. Just to
Hmm.
kind of ease into it, make it a little bearable.
Yeah,
But I actually want to talk to you about it. I mean, I might as well just talk about it on the podcast. I just noticed the registration date is up at the end of this month. Like at that point, it jumps up $20 a person.
yeah.
So how sure are you about this? Do you want to go ahead and register
I
now?
I do want to do it. Just, I mean, we can register now. What the heck?
Okay. All right. Well, we have until the end of the month, so I'll probably wait until the last day or two just to
Yeah,
because I've heard that after you do this for a month, everything kind of starts feeling a lot better.
yeah.
So
I was waiting to see if something else worked out, work wise, and I should know that pretty soon here. So
okay, cool.
just to make sure I can get the time to go over there.
Cool, man. All right, well, we'll do the 10K. I forget what it's called, or it's not 10K. I guess a half marathon is like a 20K, right? Like it's 12 some odd miles.
I don't know exactly how it translates from
Yeah.
miles to K. A 10K, that's a fairly serious run for a beginner runner, I think.
Yeah.
A 5K, that's really nothing.
Yeah, you can survive it. You can walk a 5K and end up having like, passable
Yeah,
time. Not you won't come in last.
yeah,
So, yeah, I mean that's kind of what I'm shooting for. And you picked out one that I forget what it's called, but we run around. The starting line is like by the White House, and you run around Washington D.C.
hmm
So that's cool. At least you're kind of like getting some sights in while you're running around.
yeah, yeah. And my wife, who's not going to be running it, she can kind of walk around a little bit while she's waiting for me.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. I mostly picked that location because of where I want to go to dinner that night. Because I do think it's important to pick your
Yeah.
post half marathon dinner well in advance.
Yeah, you and I talked about that because you were talking about you wanted to go to a Brazilian meat place.
Yeah, the Brazilian steakhouse.
Is it? Have you been to one of those before?
I have.
So, and is it one of those ones where you put the stop or go on the end of your table and like you basically green light and they come whenever they come around for another round of meat. If you have the green light on, then they shave off a slab of whatever meat you want, and they just
Yeah.
keep coming around. I guess for like what 11 courses or something like that.
No, they just keep coming around.
Forever? Oh, great.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
that sounds like I've told you that sounds like the perfect meal after I got finished
And
with
they've
the
got-
half marathon.
and they've got like a super salad bar and all
Awesome.
that stuff. And the way I feel, I mean, yeah, you could probably wreck most of the nutritional gain you get from a marathon pretty easily in that meal. But there's still the training, still coming out ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know what? We'll see. We'll see. Right now, it sounds like a terrible idea, but I'm sure after the marathon, I'll go back to our hotel room or whatever, pass out,
Yeah.
wake up 6 hours later.
Yeah, the
And-
post marathon nap is wonderful.
Yeah, and then basically want to eat everything. So there's a good chance that an endless supply of meat will be great.
Yeah, it
That
sounds
sounds-
pretty reasonable to me.
All right, man.
I'm pumped about it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm a little scared. Like it's kind of like my wife. One time, I told her like on our first date, my sister just got finished skydiving,
Hmm.
and I don't know, maybe I was bragging, or maybe I was just being a little too optimistic, or maybe I was just trying to show off. But I said to her, I would really love to go skydiving sometime, and that was on our first date. And so, sure
Yeah.
enough, like I think a couple months into our relationship, my wife got me a gift certificate to go skydiving,
Hmm.
and that was a very scary moment because then it became real.
Yeah.
I think it was a Christmas present, and so I was like, well, we can't go now. It's Chris. You can't go in the winter. So I kept pushing it off, like, well, we gotta wait till the spring. That's kind of how I feel about this. Like, it's yes, I'm excited about doing it, but it's very scary.
Yeah.
I've run, I did a 10K in an hour. I think is the best I ever did, like 58 minutes or something like that.
Hmm.
So
That's
marathons
pretty
twice
good.
that. That's 2 hours. 2 hours of running. I've never run for 2 hours before. So
It'll probably be longer than that. And there's no shame in walking a little bit if you have to, as long as you keep over the 18-minute mile pace.
yeah, we did a 10K. There's a bridge run in Charleston that runs over this bridge, of course, and it's a 10K, and it's like uphill half the way and then downhill the other half the way when you're going over this huge suspension bridge.
Yeah.
And I had actually run that a couple times before when I was a kid, and so my wife and I decided to go and do it. This was a few years ago, and I was about as terrible shape as I am right now. And we did a little bit of walking here and there,
Hmm.
but there's a little bit of adrenaline that kicks in, makes you kind of. That's one thing when you're out like running around the neighborhood. It's another thing when you have like 20,000 people
Yeah.
surrounding you. You start
Yeah.
feeling a little bit of pressure to actually run.
Yeah. I think for me, the important thing I need to remember is just when training, it's easy to get over enthusiastic and overtrain and
Yeah,
hurt yourself. And then you
yeah.
miss training, and then you're really miserable for the race.
Yeah, I am. It's funny because I don't ever know if I really ever trained to be competitive,
Yeah.
but I know that's not what I'm doing right now. I'm definitely not training to like set
Right.
a good time. I'm basically training for survival.
Yeah.
Like this is I'm basically gonna try to get myself into the position where I can do this thing and not collapse.
Yeah. I'm slow. I was thrilled last week when I managed to get a mile in under 11 minutes. I mean, that's a feat for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's tough, man. I definitely don't think I could do that right now. Because I used to run, like I used to run, and
Yeah.
when I did that 10K with my wife, she was kind of like, well, let's just pace ourselves and go slower, and so I did that, and I find that's kind of comfortable. I can
Hmm.
the longevity builds up a little bit when you can do
Sure.
that.
Sure.
So
Although it's really tough to run with somebody.
mm,
I mean, I'll probably see you at the finish line.
yeah,
Or maybe you'll see me. I'm slow.
yeah, yeah, it is. It's tough.
Yeah.
It'll be tough, man. I don't know if I can do it alone. I might break down and cry. We'll see. This is 6 months out.
Well, the thing is, you can't break down and cry
Yeah.
because it won't help you get there. The one that I've done before, I had to drag myself across the last 6 miles.
Oof.
I did, I did it was in Indianapolis, the Indianapolis 500 Festival mini marathon, where the halfway point of the race is on the actual Indianapolis 500 racetrack. You do a loop around there, and that's a 2.5 mile track.
Wow.
And I remember just in that first mile of that track, mentally thinking, yeah, that's at least one blister on each foot that I feel right now.
Oh.
And it's there, and I still finished.
Had you done a half marathon in training, like in practice before that, or?
I actually hurt my knee,
Uh-huh.
and I trained probably for 3 weeks out of that training schedule. So I was in no way, shape, or form prepared to do that full distance.
Wow. So, but you just did it anyway.
I did,
That's craziness, man.
and I did not move the rest of the evening. My legs were very stiff, but
How about the next day?
that was a terrible day.
Oh man. Well, listen, I don't want to talk about running too much because
All right,
what I want to talk about was walking. Actually,
walking.
yeah. My wife made a deal with me like a long time ago because I'm working from home and she does not
Mhm.
work from home. And she told me, when this kid starts walking and he starts talking, you have to just not tell me and
Yeah.
just let me see it, make me think that it happened on its own. And
Okay.
yeah, and so over the weekend, we were staying with some family, and one of my aunts is a physical therapist. So I was like, well, listen, you can make people walk, make my kid walk. So so she did. Like she like worked with a kid and got him like over the span of a half hour. He was like taking 5 or 6 steps. She had done before, kind of as a fluke,
Yeah.
but like actually unassisted 5 or 6 steps across the room. So then the next day he forgot about it, and Monday he forgot about it. today my wife's out of town. She left town this morning, and she's out of town on business.
Yeah.
Today the kid is like walking around. There's no counting steps. It's unreal. It's like 50 steps. It's just he walks
Awesome.
around. Yeah, and
Oh, he,
I have not told her because we had like a check-in, good night phone call earlier, and it was like,
geez, spoiler alert.
yeah, I know. Well, she'll hear this after the fact. But yeah, I didn't tell her. I mean, because it's just I didn't want to break her heart. She's off on like a business or a work retreat.
Yeah.
And she can't come home, So I guess I'll just show her tomorrow when she gets home. I don't know.
Yeah, he looked like he was about ready to start walking when I was over
You
there.
know, yeah, he does that thing like it's the floor is lava type of deal. He like walk like he sidles along the wall.
Yeah.
He grabs onto the furniture. Like he was doing that for 2 months, 3 months. But yeah, he's 13 and a half months old right now, and yeah, he went for it today. He was like had a smile on his face the entire time he was doing it. He was just like ecstatic that he can get across the room faster now.
Good for him.
Yeah, so that's exciting for me, but it's gonna be, I don't know. It's a little white lie. I'm gonna have to just kind of not tell my wife.
Yeah, just act all amazed when she gets home and he
Yeah.
walks into the room like, "Oh my gosh,
He has
I can't
never
believe that."
he has never done this before. I am excited. Something like that.
Can you believe he just walked into the room with no problem?
I have never seen this in my life. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. I have the same way when I'm watching him walk and I have a smile across my face. Like it's the most amazing thing. Like this, there's a little bipedal thing in my house now. It's awesome. Reverses like the dog who's been on 4 legs the whole time.
Yeah.
Never got on 2 legs, and it's not really entertaining. But now here's this kid. It's awesome.
Now, if the dog just ups the ante in this arms race and starts hopping around on one leg, that's going to be impressive.
Yeah, she's pretty content to be on her little pillow, but I noticed today she's like eyeing him like, oh, that's what it takes to get attention, huh? Okay. So we'll see what the dog pulls off next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know you and I talked right before we started, and you said that you want to talk about James Bond. Did you want to talk about spies in general, or just specifically
No.
James Bond, or
Yeah.
Ethan Hunt, nothing like that?
I went through a kick. We watched all 4 of the Mission Impossible movies over the summer, and they're mostly a disaster.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought they were kind of like it's kind of like Star Trek, sort of like every other one is good. Like I thought the first one was good, third one was good, second one was horrible, the fourth one is not great.
I liked the 4th one. I thought that was one of the highlights for me.
Really, I only watched it once, and I actually watched all the rest of them a zillion times.
Yeah.
But that fourth one was silly. Like there was kind of weird, misplaced comedy.
Wow.
Well, coming off of 3, if you watch 3, which is like like the part
Which
where
we did.
he's hanging Philip Seymour Hoffman out the bottom of the plane, and it's
Yeah.
serious, man. It is a serious freaking movie. And then the fourth one is like wacky hijinks trying to jump out of a building and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What am I?
What are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Just be a nasty critic. But talk to me about James Bond, man. Tell me what's.
Well, no. Every now and then I go on a Bond kick.
Yeah.
One of the last things I bought before I got married is I just went and bought all the James Bond movies on DVD.
On VHS?
No, DVD. Betamax.
I remember they had. I was also big into. This is when I was starting to become like a movie snob, and I started buying. I bought like Jaws, the 25th anniversary edition on VHS.
Yeah.
And I remember that around that same time they offered like James Bond on VHS, like all of them, and it was like, oh, maybe I'll buy all these on VHS. Fortunately, it was like DVD came out a couple years later. So.
Yeah, I've got a buddy who actually has all the James Bond movies that were made on beta.
Wow.
So that's kind of his thing. But yeah, I ended up with all of them on DVD, and we're kind of looking around over the weekend because they just released them all on Blu-ray, and my wife thinks that'd just be the best thing in the world to get me for Christmas. It's like it'd be okay, but I kind of come and go with James Bond.
Well, I mean, up until I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, how much is Blu-ray really going to help those older ones?
Right. I mean, I kind of feel that a lot of the older movies, unless they really get some special treatment, it's not really worth upgrading to Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And like the newer ones that were shot in the digital age, I've already got on Blu-ray. So I don't know. That probably won't happen. But I was thinking we might have Julian go through and watch the James Bond movies with us, kind of as a family thing. I guess the tricky part is it does kind of drag in the Roger Moore years. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you spent much time watching James Bond movies?
Let's see. I'm trying to remember what my first introduction was. I think maybe the first one I ever saw may have been Peirce Brosnan, but it also may have been Sean Connery. I can tell you that I believe I've seen all the Sean Connery ones.
Yeah.
I think for a while there it was TBS or one of them was pretty good about showing a James Bond movie like every night,
Yeah.
all the time. And so I'm pretty sure I watched all of those. I became a real big fan of the Sean Connery ones. I really don't think I've ever sat through any of the Roger Moore or Timothy Dalton ones.
Yeah.
I mean, all the way through. I'm sure I definitely have seen parts of them. I remember one where like a jet plane was flying through a barn, but there's one I think where he goes into space. That might actually be the same one.
Yeah.
That didn't
Moonraker.
that didn't sound appealing at all.
Yeah, some of those got really rough.
I
Nothing
really
against Roger
but
Moore.
I really like Daniel Craig actually. I like those. I like the new ones. Big fan.
Yeah, I actually was okay with the Pierce Brosnan ones. That's
I was. Pierce Brosnan is how do I put it's great. It's great until you see Sean Connery, and then it's like, oh well, you know.
you see, I'll go against you a little bit there. I'm okay with Sean Connery, but those movies are really hit or miss. The ones that he's in, they can be pretty corny compared to anything today. I mean, I think Pierce Brosnan, the big fault, and most of the faults that you find in the Bond movies aren't really with the Bond per se, but kind of the era.
Yeah.
The Pierce Brosnan does kind of go in for the big explosions, the Michael Bay-esque feel to them
Yeah, that's true.
over actual content.
Yeah.
But I thought overall they're watchable. I don't think they're that terrible.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. I can't give you like an honest. I'd be interested in hearing all of your opinions because my opinions aren't worth anything. My Sean Connery preference is based on 19-year-old me, which is probably 19, 20, 21. That's probably the last time I've seen those movies. So
Yeah.
I couldn't really tell you. That's what 15, 12 years ago. I mean, that's a long time. So.
Probably the earlier Bond movies, out of all those, the ones I like the best are Goldfinger.
I couldn't
That's
tell
the
you.
quality.
You know what I really want to watch again because I remember it blowing my mind was there was the one where
What's that?
at the end of the movie he's in the life raft and he inflates the balloon and then the plane comes by and grabs the balloon and then he basically just he gets picked up and flown out like flying behind the plane or whatever on a zip line or whatever. That's awesome. I'd really like to watch that again. Because that's stuck in my brain is like that's pretty much the coolest ending for anything ever.
Yeah.
Do you know which one that was? Is that Thunderball or?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
A lot of those ones, it's like From Russia with Love, Doctor No, Goldfinger. I'm good with those, but after those, the Connery ones kind of blurred together for me a little bit.
Yeah, was it You Only Live Twice? I really loved the opening of that one. Like the
Now
James Bonds always have the great openings, but like that one where he's
Now,
dead.
hold on, that's worth conversation. You Only Live Twice. Is that the one with Kim Basinger in it?
Well, is that the one, the side one? This is like the worst James Bond discussion ever. We're like,
I know.
we
We don't know what we're
we
talking
barely
about.
know anything about James Bond. I'm sure there's like maybe a James Bond nerd out there right now. Like, no, this is not. No, is that the? Like, wasn't there? There was like a copyright, not a copyright, but there was like a trademark dispute or a dispute as far as who owned the rights, and so Sean Connery made one that was like outside of the actual studio that normally did it or something like that. Is that maybe that's You Only Live Twice?
It's either that one or was it Never Say Never Again? I think that was it.
Maybe those two
But yeah,
titles kind of run together for me.
It was basically they just remade Thunderball except with Sean Connery, who was 15 years older.
Wow.
And you don't usually see that one in the collections.
Well, yeah, it's probably because like I was saying, it's probably some other studio did it.
Yeah,
I do remember
that's
seeing
why.
Secret Agent 006 or whatever, or no, 007, 00. You know what I'm talking about? It's the Mystery Science Theater one with like Sean Connery's brother.
Oh, I've probably seen it.
Somebody else has to correct me with what's that actually called. But
Did you ever see the George Lazenby one?
no, I did not. How was it?
Oh, that's a good one.
Is that
He
like
gets-
was he just like a one timer stuck in the middle there, or was he like the first one?
Yeah, basically Sean Connery did this run of Bond movies, decided he was done with it, so George Lazenby did the next one, and then everybody just said, "Oh, that's terrible. What an awful idea." So Sean Connery came back for another one.
Yeah, I know. I never saw that one. See,
It's-
I never got to the point where it was like, well, I need to see all of them. I never
Yeah.
got to quite to that point.
Yeah,
But,
despite having them all on DVD, I haven't gotten to that point either.
I think what it was is that I saw enough of like the Timothy Dalton, Roger Moore ones to know like, oh, you know what? They aren't all great. And so
Yeah.
it was like, all right, maybe the ones I've seen are good enough, and I don't need to go through and try to watch every single one of them.
Yeah, I'm kind of completist enough where that's going to drive me nuts. Like I'm going to slog through all the ones in the middle once I get determined to watch them.
Oh.
and it's going to be awful. But
See,
I guess
that's the difference between my approach to life and your approach to life. My approach to life is it's very short, and I should try to avoid all the crap I can. Your approach to life is let's say I'm going to be here for a while.
I'm just killing time.
Let's watch them all. Why not?
In the grand scheme of things, nobody accomplishes anything, so why not?
Yeah, I was listening to I've been listening to like Carl Sagan's Cosmos.
Oh, we've been watching it.
Yeah, well, somebody ripped the audio and turned it into a podcast. So I have
Wow.
I have all the episodes like, and I've been listening to them for like the last. I'm on episode at the end. I'm on the episode like 13 now. So
Yeah.
I've been
Where
listening
Carl
to
Sagan actually dies.
Don't give away the ending, man. You're spoiling it. But no, it's you know I started thinking about what was it? He started talking about I forgot what the term is, but you know that how the universe instead of just a big bang, it expands to a certain point and then it starts to contract back into that little pinpoint of a needle spot, and then it re-expands again all over again with all new everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you think about it that way, it's like not even Neil Armstrong's footprint on the moon will still be there. Like everything will be gone. That's like super depressing. It's like the worst thing ever to. Because I listen to podcasts when I'm trying to fall asleep, and it's the worst thing ever to try to listen to when you're trying to fall asleep. It's like, oh yeah, everything in life is futile, and nothing will last. You can create the most amazing monument or do whatever. It's not going to be here anymore once that happens.
Oh yeah, I was actually thinking about this the other day. How many Romans can you name?
Actually, a lot, because I got finished listening to a couple. I've been listening to the History of Rome podcast.
Oh, that's a great podcast.
And I did
How
take.
many
I
can you name based on that? Do you think maybe 20?
Yeah, maybe I did take Latin for 3 years, so I actually probably could. But no, I get your point, man. It's
like your stuff. You couldn't really fill up a Walmart with. At
a certain point, I would just be making up like Marcus Octavius Augustus Aurelius. I would just be making up names. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's.
And the only reason that we even know any of them is because they won one or two crucial battles that kept them just from going into the dustbin.
They just didn't die. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of those things. No, it was the what's his name? Dan. What's his face? The history podcast.
Yeah.
Hardcore history.
Yep.
With Dan something. Help me out, man. Anyway.
Dan Carlin.
Sure, he is. I listened to that podcast recently too, and was the one where he's talking about the steppe and Genghis Khan or Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
And
Jimmy K.
That's right. What did he say? Something like 1 in 20 people on Earth are related to him because he was involved in a lot of. Oh man, this is a family podcast. He was involved in a lot of baby making.
Genocide.
Yeah, that too, but also a lot of baby making that may have been unwanted baby making.
Unauthorized baby making.
Unauthorized baby making. And so now like 1 in 20 people on Earth are related to him. That might be the only way to actually have somewhat of a lasting legacy, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and one of the other quotes from that podcast that kind of got me thinking about this to begin with is just the whole idea that, all great men are terrible men. And like you take somebody like Julius Caesar, who's very well known today. What people forget is that he probably engaged in some light genocide.
Yeah. That's a kind of a reoccurring theme.
But if you want to be known for 2,000 years, if you're not a religious icon, that's your route.
Yeah,
you got to kill a whole ton of people.
Got to kill at least 100,000 people, maybe more like 1 million people, and people will remember you.
You take somebody like Stalin, who managed to kill more people than Hitler, but 400 years down the road, people are going to remember Hitler because he had World War II. Stalin was just kind of hanging out.
Oh man, yeah. So what are we getting at here then? It's the point then that the point is that it doesn't matter unless you go out and kill a zillion people. You might as well just stay home and watch all the James Bond movies.
What I really wanted to bring it around to is I don't know if I could express less enthusiasm for Adele doing the theme for the new James Bond movie.
But where does that stop, Eric? I mean, you're done with that? Then do you go watch all the Saw movies? I mean, do you go watch the Saw movies?
Why'd I watch those?
Because I mean, I'm just saying, like, if you want to be
with a lot of terrible movies in it, maybe I should watch this other series that's completely.
I guess that's how I feel about James Bond. I feel like there's a good chance that maybe 5 or 6 of them are great, and then the other 59 of them are not so great.
Yeah, but when I get on Indiana Jones kick, I'm still watching Temple of Doom.
See, that's exactly when I talk about you and I being
when
diametrically.
We watched Jurassic Park 3.
See, when I talk about you and I being diametrically opposed, I'm not sure. Are you cracking a joke right now?
No,
Okay.
that's what we did for Labor Day weekend. We watched all three
See,
Jurassic
this
Park
this is what I'm
movies.
talking about. When I'm talking about you and I being diametrically opposed.
Clearly.
I would watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I would watch Last Crusade. I would never watch Temple of Doom ever again. Probably, maybe one more time. I got that in me maybe to show my kid like,
Yeah.
hey, this is the one that you probably don't want to watch most of the time.
Yeah.
And I would watch Jurassic Park 1 a zillion times.
Hold on. I need to stop you right there for a second. I just want to say that I greatly admire you that you refuse to even acknowledge Crystal Skull in that discussion. Because
Oh, what Crystal? What?
the Crystal Skull,
What's this?
that's the new Indiana Jones movie.
They made a new one.
God bless you, Ben.
I heard.
Even as completion oriented as I am, I ignore that one.
I keep hearing rumors about that. I saw that on the internet. So they made somebody said that they made a new Indiana
on
Jones.
the internet of a movie they made 2 years ago.
There was something about there was a new Indiana Jones, and also somebody else said there was like new Star Wars movies they had made, and also somebody said that they made a second and third Matrix movies. I don't know, man. This sounds like craziness.
And
to
they
me.
also made first, third, and fifth Star Trek movies, but I don't know.
I also heard they made a sequel to 2001. I hear craziness on the internet. I hear like I don't know. It can't be real. Like, that stuff doesn't exist.
Well, I think, okay, you can say we're diametrically opposed, but you also have to look at the reality of the situation.
What I was going to say, though, is I would definitely watch Jurassic Park 1.
Yeah.
Maybe Jurassic Park 2. Probably never again would I watch Jurassic Park 3. So it's funny that
It wasn't as bad as I remembered it.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. but I mean, look where I am. I've been married for 8 years. I've had these James Bond movies for that time, and I can tell you there's at least 5 of them in there that I have never so much as put in a DVD player.
Really? But you've seen them all, is that what you're saying? Or you just
No.
haven't watched them?
I haven't.
Wow.
I've never put them. I mean, I intend to do it someday, but it's also kind of like I intend to listen to all the REM albums sequentially someday,
Wow.
and then I get to Up, and the one after that, and it's like,
Do you know I will literally, when I want to listen to a band, like, I listen to one song from a band that I like,
Yeah.
I will literally go onto iTunes, sort all of their songs by popularity, pick like the top 3 or 4, and then listen to those songs, and then be done with them. I am not interested in listening. I'm not interested in listening to the other 30 to 50 to 70 other songs that they've done. I just want to hear their greatest hits, and that's it. I'm not really interested in any of that stuff.
Yeah, life
I
is
couldn't
precious,
imagine.
but I mean, it's not like you're going to bother getting a job.
What? So,
Doing work that will be professionally acknowledged as being wasteful someday.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can do that, I guess. So, I forgot what I was going to say. There was something else I was going to add to something in there. There was a. Did you see that? There's a YouTube video out there from a few years ago, like a time lapse of people watching all the James Bond movies, like all of them in a row. They like this guy had a party and he invited all his friends over, and they like over the course of a weekend, I think they just put them on one after another, and everybody took like shifts sleeping and stuff. But basically, the couch was full at all times of people watching this movie.
Yeah.
And then it's this time lapse, so the video only lasts like a few minutes, and it's little titles underneath to kind of let you know which movie is playing.
Yeah.
And it's just pointed at the audience, so you just get to see their reactions. And I mean that's maybe you should watch that, man. Maybe you can kind of zoom through that.
Good.
See, maybe we should do something like that, just with the 5 that you haven't seen yet. We'll just sit down and watch all 5 of those, and I don't know,
let's just watch the bad ones.
Yeah, let's just watch. Well, just those 5 you haven't seen, because I'm sure I haven't seen those either. And we'll watch those, and then we can maybe, I don't know, we'll do something about that, like a podcast style.
That sounds miserable. But yeah, I'm still not happy about Adele. I don't really like Adele.
Oh, I haven't heard that song. I know that's a big deal. Everybody's talking about the song she did, but
yeah, I don't want her in a James Bond movie opening credit sequence. I mean, talk about a killer.
All right, man. That's all I got on James Bond. Do you have anything else?
No.
That part actually will probably get cut out. So, all right, man. Thanks. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me just do this. The website's
Do it.
howtoraiseanawesomekid.com. The podcast can be emailed at podcast@howtoraiseanawesomekid.com, or you can email Eric at howtoraiseanawesomekid.com. Or
What's
Justin.
our email account?
It's just.
I mean, how many do we have so far?
I don't know. Like 0. People
Get on it, people.
People reaching out to us to try to do sponsorships. So yeah, we got those. But
Any sponsorships?
no, nothing that I'd want to take. It's all weird stuff.
How weird.
Like, would you like to sponsor my Kenyan cut prints or something? It's not.
Does it involve animals? Because I won't do animals.
No animals. Yeah, no, we haven't really got anything good coming in. So please email us, please, please.
Just we're lonely. Just email us.
And
Say
also,
hi.
there's a phone number for us. I'm not gonna read that phone number off here. You're not gonna write it down. So just go to our website and look up the phone number if you want to call. leave a voicemail for the podcast, and we'll play it. You could be the first person ever to be on our podcast that isn't us.
We'll get a fanfare.
Yeah, it's you know what? We'll devote the entire podcast to talking about whatever voicemail you left. I swear to God, that'll be what happened.
Absolutely.
All right, man. That's all I had.
All right, that's great. It's been a great talk.
Great, good. Talk to you later.
See ya.